All right, welcome back to the third video in the Ultimate Trade Setup series. And this trade setup is one of my favorites. This was a beautiful trade that can even pull the fast one on smart money traders. So let's jump into the charts and we can reevaluate the price action and how we were able to take advantage of this setup. So today we're looking at USD Cad, and this is typically a pair that I don't trade, but my trade partner pointed it out to us and it was just a really nice setup here. So I want to break down a couple of things because this one had tricked a couple other traders in our community, because overall we were looking for shorts and a lot of people were looking for buys that were justified. But there was a tell that said the buys had a really good chance of not playing out. So we're gonna run through the price action and I'm gonna show you what a lot of the traders in our community were looking at. So here we can see a strong impulsive move. And this is a classic flag pattern where you can see price running on lows, strong impulsive move, followed by consolidation, and it gives that look of a flag. That's where it gets the name flag pattern or pennant. So this by itself here is a really, really solid pattern. And we can see here we have a nice candle. We can see a strong push up through the New York London overlap, and then we started to fizzle out in Asian session and it started to retrace and pull back and start creating that flag pattern. And again, you can see this is a nice manipulation candle. We had a low here where price ran on this low and that led to the big move to the top side. Now, the reason we started looking for shorts was because of what happened in London session. Another thing that we paid attention to, and you've probably heard me say this many times before, one of the things that we pay attention to is the herd mentality. How are a lot of other traders approaching this setup? So we want to ask ourselves that question because we want to putting our stop losses and our entries in alignment with the retail trader crowd. And when I looked at this, one of the first things that I saw was, this kind of looks like a channel. We had, you had the trend lines, and it kind of had like another trend line, something like this, and it just looked to me something like this. And this is why these retail concepts are so fuzzy and subjective, because which top are you connecting? This one, but to me it looked like a solid trend line. I kind of had a good solid idea, especially you have this support level here, and for me that is a solid area of relatively equal lows. So for me, like when I'm looking at entries and looking for my targets and areas that I'm putting my stop losses, I want to avoid having certain things under my stop losses, reasons for price to drop lower than my entry and my stop loss. And here I look at this and I say, okay, there's probably a lot of liquidity building up here on this support level. And then you have price pushing up, and I'm going to put on this indicator here, and this just represents time, right? So everything that happens between these two yellow lines, that's a whole week of price action. So we can see price has been pretty bullish for the majority of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, first half kind of melted, and then we saw the second half of the weeks just start creating this bullish structure. And then we had this strong bullish impulsive move, which created a higher high. So it kind of developed a trend line here off of this support level. And I knew if a lot of traders were viewing this, and retail or smart money, it looked like a lot of people would be buying this trend line and putting stop losses under this low. If retail traders were viewing this pattern too, their stop losses would also be in alignment where retail traders would put their stop loss. And for me, that's a no trade. So I'm trying to avoid putting my stop losses in those areas, and the frosting on the cake here is the equal lows here. I don't want to see equal lows or anything along those lines underneath my stop, because that just could be potential trouble. So Besides all of that, we're looking at what happened during London. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in a little bit and we're gonna jump down to a 15-minute time frame, and then I'm gonna jump down to a lower time frame, and I'm gonna show you the 2-minute entries that we took advantage of. So I'm gonna mark this blue because that was the candle here that was the higher time frame manipulation candle that led to this move here. So you can see now that we're in Asian session, you can see the green starting here. Now we're in London. So ideally, if I saw something like this and price just broke down and aggressively pushed up, I might be in alignment with that. That's probably what I would need to see. Make another little signature pattern here before continuing up. But what I don't want to see is price do this and run on the highs first in London and then aggressively push down into that entry here onto that trend line. That is going to tell me that there's a really good chance when I see an opposite signature pattern in this pullback that we could see something like this and then attack that low on this trend line and ultimately come down for those equal lows here. So that was kind of the basis of our thought process, because that's exactly what we saw when we pulled up this pair in New York session or leading up to the New York at the tail end of London. So I'm gonna press play on this and you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. Oops. So right there, you can see, if I drop down a little bit more, you can see when we came into London session, it spiked up above all of these highs here, relative equal highs, and then strong bearish engulfing candle and a strong impulsive move that came right down to that entry. So at this point, retail traders are buying. Smart money traders looking at this higher time frame flag pattern with that manipulation candle also buying. And that's where a lot of people, even in our community, they also saw this too and looked to buy. So this here, I'm gonna move this trend line out of the way just so we can get a clear picture of this candle. There's our nice candle there. I'm gonna mark it up as a selling candle. You can see our swing to our swing. It also created a nice little double bottom here as well. This here, where everybody else is putting their stop loss under this low, and perhaps this low, those were the targets. So there's entry one. Now, another thing that kind of brought our attention to USD Cad was there was strong CAD news at the time of this setup. And what we were looking for were other micro patterns, other signature patterns, which might end up forming on lower time frame in this area here that aligned with that news event. So here was the first entry. You can see price pulled back right up into that candle and then started breaking down. But I'm gonna drop you down to a lower time frame and show you where our really solid setup was that we took advantage of. So at this point here, we can see price pushed up into that candle, slight pullback. Then we can see price ran on those highs here, but failing to break the high of this candle, and then strong move down here and then continue to break down. So there was a potential that we could see price get jammed up here. Let me slow this down a bit. And there is the test there, but we didn't take that one because there wasn't a break of structure. We wanted to make sure that this was actually going to break, because this also kind of looked like a bullish harmonic here. And as price started pushing up, we wanted to make sure it wasn't just going to run on these highs. So we really wanted to get that added confirmation that price was going to break structure, and at this point it had. So this is another signature pattern re-entry or stack on position that could have been taken advantage of, and this is the one that we ultimately took advantage of. And now we're paying attention to the news event. So the news event, if I'm not mistaken, was right at 10 a.m. So I'm going to mark that up. 10 a.m. was right around there. There's 10 a.m. in the morning. okay? So let's play this out. Okay, so now we can see obvious break of structure, right? This is definitely respecting the 15-minute candle. We can see that this is definitely playing out, and this isn't the price action you want to be seeing when you're looking to buy coming into the New York overlap. You would want to see this signature be on the opposite side, an inverted example like I showed you here, down, then up, and then look for the retest, which we saw the opposite, which that was more confirmation of this coming to the downside, attacking those areas of lows where a lot of people would be putting their stop losses. Because keep in mind, price more often than not is going to run to where it can hurt the most people, stop out the most people, make the most bad days. Okay, so back to the 2-minute. Let's mark this up. Boom, boom. About a 3.9 pip stop. First low here, right around 8 3/4 on your money. We see price come down into this level again. So we have the initial double bottom that I pointed out already. And now with this low here, we just have another higher time frame, not higher time frame, it would appear on a higher time frame the same, but we have another bigger double bottom, or what may appear as a support level, introducing more buyers into the market. For us, it's just another big target. More reason for price to come down and capture this set of equal lows here. So at this point, leading up to the news event, keep in mind this dotted line, that is when we have the CAD news. We're looking for a pullback into this and then come down here and show an impulsive move and continue this continuation move here. So let's continue this out here. And this was a beautiful trade. We ended up getting filled on this and hitting RTP in, I think it was 3-4 minutes flat. So there is the entry there. And then we can see price came right back up again, and then right at the 10 o'clock news event, represented by that dotted line, you can see price just absolutely melt, attacking these lows here. This first one being that first low that any buyers on that 1 hour manipulation candle for the bullish flag would have been using for a stop. And then we have the next low here, which I believe was the previous day low. And then of course we had the bigger target down here, which was that set of equal lows here, which we were out of this trade pretty quickly with the news event. It came right down to this area here, hovered for a little bit, and then ultimately just smashed right through, as we can see here. Consolidated for a little bit, but ultimately just kept on working down and attacking all of the lows. Let me speed this up, and we can see, boom, attacked all of the lows. So this was a really beautiful setup, just like the next one that we're going to talk about in the next video.